Good early evening, everybody. Hope you guys are still doing well. We are still looking at day two edge players. And this time we're going to be taking a look at some guys who I think are going to go on day two, but I don't really think they should. Or at the very least, I don't think the Seahawks should look at them in that way. Like, I'm looking at these guys and I don't see the day two upside. I see day three, personally. So maybe they do end up dropping. That's obviously very possible. But as of right now, the general consensus seems to be they're likely to go somewhere maybe late in day two, but they're probably going to go in day two. But for assorted reasons, very different reasons in some cases, I'm just not feeling it. So, first guy we're going to take a look at here is Byron Young of the Tennessee Volunteers. We run into a big problem very quickly, 25 years old. And when I say 25, I mean he's 25 right now. He's going to be 25 and a half before he plays a snap. 6'2", 250, 32 and a half inch arms. Another big problem. Length issues, short arms. Did have a really good combine. 4.43 speed is crazy on a guy who's going to be an edge rusher. 1.62 10-yard split's not amazing, but it's fine, totally workable. 38-inch vert's nice. 11-foot broad is fantastic. That combine really did put him on the map in a positive way. I don't know if it's enough to make up for the rest of this, though. He was pretty productive the last 2 years for Tennessee. Not crazy productive, but we're talking 12 and a half sacks in his last 23 games played. So, yeah, there's some positives to take away from this guy for sure. I'm not saying he's just terrible. He's a great athlete. I can't take that away from him. One of the best edge athletes in this whole class. He's got good bend. He's going to be one of those guys that can get low to the ground and bend around the edge. He's hard to land a good hit on and block. He's like slippery in that regard. It's almost like the collegiate Cansey stuff I talk about sometimes. He's always giving high effort, high character guy. Maximizes all of his opportunities as a player. It seems like he's not somebody who does the clowny stuff where he starts a play and can't finish it. He finishes his plays. And he did show technical improvement with his hands in 2022. He did start to use his hands a little bit better when engaged with offensive linemen and tight ends. So, definitely stuff to like here, but here's my thing. When you're 25, when you're coming into the draft, like you're 25 the day of the draft, and you're going to be 25 and a half before you play a snap of football, I just want you to be a finished product. I want you to be ready to go, ready to contribute big time day one, because you're not going anywhere physically. You're not going to suddenly, gain 15 pounds out of nowhere. You're not suddenly going to grow. You're not suddenly going to have a bigger frame. It is what it is now. And he's a little bit on the weak side. I think you can exploit him in the run. I think you can definitely run right at him the way you can with Darrell Taylor. I think that he has to improve cerebrally with his processing. The mental part of the game is not great with him. He's disappointingly sloppy for an older prospect with his technique. He's going to have to add to his pass rush set. These are not things that I want to be saying about a guy who's this old. If I'm going to draft a guy who is this old, I want him to be ready to go out of the box. And my impression of this guy is he is nowhere close to being ready to go out of the box. He's got those short arms are going to limit him as well. So we have a lot of issues here. The age, the mental aspect of the game, the technique, the strength, a lot of things working against him here, but he is a phenomenal athlete. But even with that, I look at him and I see fourth round. I think this guy should go in the fourth. Right now, the big boards have him going at the back end of the third. That's not that far away from what I was thinking. But I just don't see the day two value here. And there's also, this is something the Hawks Nest talked about a little bit, he seems more comfortable in a 4-3. So put it all together, I'm not that in on Byron Young personally. Okay, now we have Zach Harrison. And this guy I actually like. I just don't know if I like him for us. I want to be clear about that. OSU Buckeye, 22 years old, bigger side. This is another guy who right away you can kind of tell this is going to be a little bit of an issue. He's a little too big to play outside linebacker in a 3-4, I think. 6'5 and a half, 274 pounds. Super long arms, though. That alone makes him intriguing. 36 and a quarter inch arms. He's got those Freddy Krueger arms. 10-inch hands. So he's just a big all-around guy. 25 bench press reps, that's all he did at the combine. Some big boards have him in the fourth, some have him in the third. The aggregate currently has him in the third. That's kind of where I expect him to go. I think that's probably okay. I don't have anything against that. But I don't see him as a third round value for this team because I don't really know what he's going to do. That being said, he's got super long arms. He's going to have some of the longest arms in football. He's big and explosive. He's active and varied in how he engages with offensive linemen. He's a guy who knows how to vary his pass rush set. He has a lot of knockdowns at the line of scrimmage because he's got those super long arms. He's got 7 over the last 2 years. He's got a little bit of bend, but not a lot. And because of that, I wonder if he's going to end up playing inside in the NFL if he does end up in a 3-4. He does seem high IQ in processing information. He does seem like a smart player, which is something that you really like to see from a guy who's 22. That's a promising thing. That's indicative of being able to contribute early on as a rookie. So Zach Harrison, a lot of obvious positive traits here. I'm definitely not trying to say this guy's a bad player, but he doesn't have enough bend to ever be great off the edge. He can be slow off the snap. He's one of those guys where you sometimes notice his hand is the last hand that gets out of the ground. He's got a stiff body. He loses leverage a lot because he's so tall. He didn't produce that much at Ohio State. I mean, you look at it, he's toolsy, but over the last 2 years, he's given you 5.5 sacks. And some of that is because Ohio State's defense is pretty loaded most of the time, and you have to split stats with a lot of players, but I don't know if that can totally excuse this relative lack of production. I don't know. When I look at him, I see 5 tech. 5 tech in a 4-3 that slides inside. If he came to Seattle, I would assume he would bulk up, add 10, 15 pounds, and be a 3-4 defensive end. And that might work fairly well. I'm not totally against it, but I don't see it naturally the way I see it with guys like Tyree Wilson and guys like Adebawore. Sometimes I can look at a guy and I get the sense, yeah, that guy's going to have no problem transitioning to 3-4 end. Zach Harrison, I'm not completely convinced. So, I don't know. As of right now, I just see a 5 tech. I think he would be pretty good value in the 3rd round in general, but here, no. I would wait for him to drop until the 4th round. If he drops that far, great. More than likely he won't. Some team will value him in the more traditional sense. But if we're going to be running this 3-4 defense, this Fangio defense, I just think you got to pass and let somebody else take him. Somebody that can use him a little bit better. Somebody where the fit makes a little more sense. Okay. Now this next guy, admittedly, I don't know. I don't know. Andre Carter II, like every big board except for one says he's going to go in the day 2. A couple have him going in the 2nd round. Only one major big board that I use has him going late, which is actually what I think it would be fair for him. But it's not being reflected in any of the data yet. He's nowhere near day 3 pick on most big boards. And I'll tell you this, I don't even know if he should go in the first half of day 3. This guy really went cold for me quickly. So I think he's going to go day 2, but maybe by the time the draft gets here, everybody just kind of bails on him. I don't know. But this is Andre Carter the second of Army, 23 years old, 6'6.5", so he's a massive, massive man. 256 pounds, 33 3/8 inch arms, okay. 9 3/8 inch hands, okay as well. His combine was a little bit of a mess. Capped off by 11 bench press reps as a guy who is supposed to, his calling card is supposed to be strength. But still, most of the big boards have him in day 2. One has him in like the 5th or 6th round, which I think is actually where he should go. Maybe it's where he will go, we'll see. But I'm just not really seeing it. This guy had a monster 2021, 14.5 sacks, 17 tackles for loss. One of the best defensive linemen in all of college football. Playing terrible competition, mind you. And then 2022, he fell off a cliff. He was basically invisible. 3.5 sacks in 10 games. Nowhere near the same impact. Vanished like a fart in the wind. Now, he does give high effort. He is a high character guy. I can say that on a personal level, he seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. He does show a decent set of pass rush moves. A little bit of trickiness to him. You can run him on those stunts. You can run him on twists. Pretty good athlete as long as he's running in a straight line. He did play inside a little bit in the NFL, and if I had to guess, that might be where I like him more than outside in the NFL, honestly, but he'd have to bulk up a pretty good amount. There is a little bit of upside here because he's kind of new to playing defense. I think he started out on offense. So there's upside here that you normally wouldn't see just because he's relatively new to this. I think that this most recent year was only his second year playing this role for the Notre Dame defense. I'm sorry, Army defense. So there is upside there that you normally wouldn't assume of a 23-year-old, I guess. But you look at the regression in 2022. You look at the bad combine that indicates that he's just not going to be that good. Moving around, he's going to be good in a straight line. His hand placement technique is not great. He loses leverage a lot because he's so tall. He's not very efficient with his pass rush moves. Sometimes he gets stuck between multiple moves and it takes too long for him to actually get to the quarterback. He's not that strong, even though strength is supposed to be his thing. He played really weak competition at Army. He absolutely feasted on weak competition in 2021, and then he couldn't even do that in 2022. Not a lot in his pass rush set right now. And when they run at him, he gets pushed around, Darrell Taylor style. So this is a one-hit wonder. This is the definition of a one-hit wonder to me. I do think that his character and his work ethic will allow him to be the best version of himself in the NFL. But I think that version is a pretty lackluster player who never even rises to the level of being a good starter. So if he gets to the 5th round, okay, there's enough positive here for me to be like, okay, 5th round, I feel all right about it. Let's try to develop this guy. But yeah, I'm not feeling it here. Really not feeling it as anything more than that. Right now, it seems like he will be a 3rd round pick. I don't think he should go anywhere near the 3rd round personally. All right, that's it for day 2 edges. See you guys tomorrow. Go Hawks.